Alright, so we've got a site set up. Now let's talk about how we get some content in there. Key to this idea is the concept of the node. And Drupal has its own vocabulary, just like blogging does. So we might have things, we might talk about permalinks, and we might talk about trackbacks and other phrases that are specific to blogging. Well, Drupal has the same kind of deal. It has a set of terms that are related to it, and central to this is the idea of the node. And the node is just some way of glomming a bunch of text together. So for a blog, for example, the blog posts will be nodes. But really, any kind of chunk of text or chunk of content in Drupal is a node. Anything you want to move around. And really, it's just, Drupal itself just tracks on these things as a bunch of nodes. A site, the content on the site is just a bunch of nodes. And then what you do with those nodes, how you set them up, how you organize them, really makes up this, where you put them on the screen, how you view them. All of these things make up what the site looks like. So let's create a node. I'm logged in as King of the World as the main account. Really, I ought to set up, it's bad practice to, this is the super user for Drupal, and it's bad practice to do a lot of stuff with the super user. Generally, you set up a new account for yourself as like Alex Halavey, and then you have the super user when you have to do very sensitive things where you want to change everything. But for now, it's a fresh install, so we're going to stick with that. This is the way it looks to me as King of the World. I have these menus. Let me show you real quick that there's let me open up another browser where I'm not logged in. And here you'll see that I get the user login screen instead. So it's different depending on whether you're logged in or not, what you see. I could go to my account and do things like I could edit my account so that I changed my name or my password. I can create content, administer, or log out. So let's start by creating content. Here it gives me the choice of creating one of two different kinds of nodes. These are the built-in nodes that come with Drupal. There's a bunch of other nodes that we'll get to in a minute. But let's start with a page. You can see a page is like a story, a simple way of a method for creating and displaying information that rarely changes. Like an About Us section of a website. So let's start with that. Let's call it About. We'll just call it About. Us seems silly. This is a site for discussing the future of Flash and HTML. Figure it's a very short about, but we can start with that. Now notice there's a lot of hidden fields here, drop-down menus that we could look at. One is whether this should appear in the menu, and I think it should. So we'll call it About, and we'll have it as an item in our menu. And right now it doesn't have any parent item. It's just like we saw in WordPress. It's kind of, is there something that's above it? And no, I think we're good with it being at the very core level. Weight 0. This actually says where we want it to be, and we probably want it to be at the very top. We want the About text to be at the very top of the menu itself. All right. So input format. I could do filtered HTML or I can do full HTML. So filtered HTML is a little bit like what we do in the comments in WordPress. It lets me use strong, and it lets me use UL and some other things, but it does line breaks automatically. Full HTML is if I want to do HTML coding in a node. So why would you do that? I mean, it makes sense actually. This gives you a lot of the structure, but then you have total control over what's showing up in there. There are other things you can do too later that include programming as well in the node, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Revision information, we don't need to create a new revision because this already is a new revision. There's no page like this yet. Let's go ahead and allow people to leave comments. And this says who it is that authored it, and when we print it, it'll say that. And whether it's published, promoted to the front page, and sticky at the top of lists. So we're just going to, for now, say it's published. We'll see what these other two are in a minute. There's two possibilities. One of the things Drupal allows you to do is let people do edited versions of things and not publish it until they're ready. Again, this corresponds a little bit to WordPress in that you can create drafts that aren't yet published. So it's a very similar idea. So let's go ahead and we could preview it, but I'm going to just take my chances and save it. Now, it says that it's been created here, and here's what it looks like. Now this is the way it appears. Because I'm logged in, I get the edit. If you look up here, it's at node 1. It's our first node. But how do I get there? Well, you'll see, because I made it part of the primary menu, you'll see up here in the right-hand corner, I have the first link on my primary menu. So I can click on that, and I'll get to About. If I look over here, this is if I'm not logged in. I click on that, and I get to About. The difference between these two are, if you look here, you see I have a View and Edit because I'm logged in, and I'm allowed to change it. Here I'm not allowed to change it, so I don't get that, but I do get sort of this piece. And right now it says I have to log in or register to post comments. I can change that. I can allow anonymous people to post, but by default it says that they want only users to post to the site. All right, so what if we wanted more than just stories and pages? There's other kinds of content we could have, and if we look under Administer, you'll see that we have something called Content Management. This lists all the content on the site, which right now is only a single page. But it also says what kinds of content types there are. And right now there are 2 types of content. I could add a content type, but I don't have anything really fancy to do with that yet. So instead I'm going to go over to Site Building and look at Modules. And I'm going to add in some modules that might be useful to us. So I'm going to add in a blog module, the book module. I'm not going to do a forum. I might do path and poll. Why not just add everything in? Well, because you really don't need to put in things you're not going to use. So, for example, if I know I'm not going to use the taxonomy at all, I could actually pull it out. We'll go ahead and save this. All right, and now if we go back to Create Content, you'll see I have a whole bunch of new content types that have come in as part of those modules. I have a blog entry, a book page, a poll. Let's do a poll real quick. The question is, will HTML5 kill Flash? Choice 1 is, of course it will. Choice 2 is, Flash will rule forever. Choice 3 is, they will coexist peacefully. Choice 4 is, who cares? And we'll make sure that the poll is active and it lasts forever. Now, menu settings, we don't obviously want this to be a menu item up at the very top. You notice that we have book outline. We have a new item in here. One of the things that new modules can do is add stuff to the nodes. We probably want to have comments on this as well. This also is something added, URL path settings. So I've added this first poll. We'll see what that does in a minute. And we go ahead and I'm going to promote it to the front page, which means it'll show up on the front page. And no, I'll just put it to the front page. And I'm going to save it. So now it's created this poll for the front page. Now if I go, I'm going to switch over to, so it's the only thing right now that I promoted to the front page, so it's the thing that shows up here. Now what can I do with this? Nothing right now, but if I'm logged in, I'll go to the front page, and I can choose one of these. So let's say, of course it will, let's try with, they'll coexist peacefully, and it gives me the result that there's 1 vote for it coexisting peacefully. Now note here that if I go to what would be called the permalink in blog speak, but if I go to the node directly, it now has a nice clean URL, first poll. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now, but it gives you an idea of what nodes are. That's very core to how this works. We still have them kind of going mishmashy. All we've managed to do is put the poll on the front page, but as we start to talk about blocks and organizing things on the page, we'll move beyond that. All right, thanks very much.